All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about something that's honestly one of the most exciting frontiers in tech right now, building production-grade AI agents. Now, if you're a startup founder or a developer, listen up, because this is way more than just a cool buzzword. It's a massive shift in how you're going to build products and, frankly, how you'll run your business. So let's get right to it. This quote from Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian just nails it. We are officially moving past simple chatbots that can just answer a question. The real game changer is what he calls the agentive workflow. Think about it. You give an AI a really complex goal, like, say, plan our next product launch, and then you watch it figure out and actually execute all the little steps to get there. We're talking about some serious leverage here.
And that brings us to the big, hairy challenge, right? I mean, it's one thing to hack together a cool demo that works most of the time, but it is a whole other universe to build a product that your customers can actually depend on. How do you handle an agent's unpredictable nature? The fact that it might give you a slightly different answer or take a different path each time, even with the same goal. That's the million-dollar question, and it's exactly what we're going to break down today.
Okay, let's get into the fundamentals. The first thing you've got to grasp is that AI agents aren't just a slightly better version of the software we already have. No way. They represent a true paradigm shift, a totally new way of thinking about automation and user experience that suddenly makes things that seemed like science fiction, well, totally possible. So what even is an AI agent when you get right down to it? Well, at its core, it's not just a brain in a jar. It's this powerful combo of an advanced AI model, that's the intelligence part, hooked up with a set of tools that let it actually do stuff in the real world. It can take action, all on your behalf, and you're still in the driver's seat. To really get how to build one, we need to pop the hood and see what's inside. So let's deconstruct an agent into its basic building blocks. This is where the theory gets real, and you can actually start to see the roadmap for building your own. First thing you need is the model. You can just think of this as the agent's brain. But here's the key strategic insight. Your goal isn't just to grab the biggest, most powerful model out there. No, the smart play is to pick the most efficient one for the task. You're always looking for that sweet spot, that perfect balance between capability, speed, and of course, cost. Next up, you've got the tools. These are the agent's hands and senses. This is how it breaks out of its little digital box and actually interacts with the world. And for a startup, this part is absolutely crucial. When you connect your agent to your own private APIs and your internal data, you're not just building a cool feature, you're building a defensible product. You're building a moat. So you have a brain and you have hands. But what's the thing that connects them? Well, that's orchestration. It's the agent's executive function. This is the logic, the project manager that plans the attack. It figures out which tools to use and in what order to get a complex job done. For a small startup team, getting orchestration right is how you create just massive leverage. A really popular and honestly super powerful way to do this is with a pattern called REACT. It stands for reason and act. And it perfectly shows this dynamic loop that the agent is constantly in. It thinks about the problem, that's reason. It acts by calling a tool, and then it observes the result, which feeds right back into its next thought. It's this cycle, reason, act, observe, over and over, that lets it tackle really complex problems one step at a time. And of course, an agent's gotta have a memory. But it's not just one simple thing. A really solid data setup actually has 3 different types. You need long-term knowledge, that's for all the facts and personalization. You need a fast working memory for what's happening in the conversation right now. And you need a transactional memory, which is basically a perfect verifiable audit trail of every single important action the agent takes. Okay, so we've taken the agent apart and we know all of its core pieces. Now, for the fun part, how do you actually go about building one? Let's look at the real practical options you have as a developer. You've basically got 2 main paths here, and it's a really important strategic choice. You can go code first with something like Google's Agent Development Kit, or ADK. This gives you total control to build something truly unique and defensible. Or you can go application first with a no-code platform like AgentSpace. And that path is all about raw speed, empowering your non-technical teams and freeing up your very precious engineers. But here's the thing, no matter which path you pick, there is one thing you absolutely positively cannot skip: reliability. I mean, if your users can't trust what your agent tells them, your product is basically dead in the water. So that brings us to maybe the most important question of all. How do you make these super powerful but kind of unpredictable systems trustworthy? The answer and this is the secret sauce, is a concept called grounding. This is it. Grounding is the process of tethering your agent to real, verifiable, factual data. So instead of just letting it make stuff up, what we call hallucinating, you force it to base its answers on information you know is true. This is what turns it from a creative storyteller into a reliable, trustworthy assistant. And what's wild is that grounding itself has evolved at lightning speed. You can see on this timeline here. It started with a technique called RAG, which is basically about finding relevant text. Then it got smarter, understanding relationships in data. And now we've arrived at what we call agentic RAG, where the agent itself becomes an active reasoner in the hunt for truth. Let's dig into that. Okay, so let's start with the original foundational RAG workflow. Just look at this diagram. When a user asks a question, the system doesn't just toss it over to the AI. First, it does a search on a knowledge base you trust, like your company's own internal wiki. It finds the most relevant pieces of info, and then it hands those facts over to the AI along with the user's question, so the AI has real context to build its answer from. Now, let's level this up to agentic RAG. This is where things get really, really cool. With this approach, the agent isn't just passively being handed search results anymore. Oh no, it becomes an active participant in the search. It can look at a complex question, come up with a multi-step plan, and then execute a whole series of searches and tool calls to hunt down the absolute best answer. And hey, this isn't just some abstract idea. As Dewey Kella, who's a total expert in the space, points out, this is where you build a truly different product. He calls agentic RAG a central pillar that lets agents iteratively find, retrieve, and, here's the key part, reason over data. That ability to reason is the whole ballgame. And here is a perfect real-world example of this in action. A customer asks if a specific shoe is in stock. First, the agent uses semantic search to understand the meaning of the request, not just keywords, to correctly identify the solar flare runners. But it doesn't stop there. Then, and this is the magic, it actively calls a tool, Check Inventory, that's hooked up to a live inventory system. And the result? A perfectly grounded real-time answer. Yes, we have 82 pairs available. Beautiful. So we've covered the core concepts, the different ways to build, and the absolute necessity of grounding. Let's pull this all together and look at the key decisions you have to make to get your agent out of the lab and into the hands of real users. Think of this checklist as your final roadmap. It brings everything we just talked about into one place. We said you need to give your agent a brain. That means selecting the right model. You need to make it trustworthy. That's grounding and RAG. You need to handle complex jobs. That's orchestration using patterns like React. Connecting it to the world. That's your tools and APIs. And finally, to actually launch a real product, you use a managed runtime for scalability. Every single challenge has a clear technical solution. We have covered a ton of ground here, from the big ideas all the way down to the specific pieces you'll need to build with. The architecture is clear. The tools are out there. So really the only question left is the one on the screen. Now that you know how to build it, what incredible, world-changing problem are you going to solve first?